West Tigers fans, the boys went down hard last week. We're going to talk about it for a little bit. We're going to ease our way through it. We'll get back to looking forward as we play the Rabbitohs this weekend. Hopefully the boys can bounce back. Join us for another episode of the West Tigers Life podcast. West Tigers fans, welcome into another episode of West Tigers Life. We are brought to you by a very busy Orange Grove Hotel tonight. We've got a huge crowd here. They're not here for us. They're here for a completely different reason, but that's okay. So you might hear a little bit of noise in the background. I guess that's when we have the pleasure of broadcasting from a pub. That's the beauty and the challenges of it. But all plenty of beer flowing here for a Wednesday night at the Orange Grove, and there will be as well. Join us the next away game, which is when's the next away game?
Round 13.
Round 13. So we've got the bunnies at home this weekend. We'll be out there doing our post gamers. So give us a follow on YouTube. Make sure you can and our socials at West Tigers Life. The TikTok got pulled down this week, Rob. Briefly, we got accused of imitating for some reason. I sent in an appeal. Credit to TikTok, whoever at TikTok gave us the tick of approval, and we're back up. The TikTok's back up and firing. So at West Tigers Life on TikTok, Twitter, and what's the other one? Instagram. And then, pick your pipes for all the podcast outlets. If you don't, or catch us on YouTube, like, subscribe. Let's go to Aaron. Mr. Thompson, how are you this evening after we were here very down and out on Sunday afternoon as the boys went down? I can't remember the score, 60-something. Doesn't matter. How are you feeling? What are we, 72 hours? Is that right-ish since then?
Yeah, that's about the amount of time. Yeah, g'day, Josh. G'day, Rob. G'day, everyone watching and listening. I'm feeling a little bit better now than I was on Sunday evening. You would have seen my head in my hands a little bit. It was a bit of a sad, sorry experience, I think. Potentially watching along that watch along. Hopefully our next one in a few weeks is better anyway. I've just been trying to take stock a little bit over the last couple of days, try to just get myself back on track, try to not lose too much hope in the season. Obviously it's a little tough considering a loss like that kind of puts a massive dent in the finals aspirations, plus the absolute hammering our for and against copped in such a close season. That's probably the part that hurts the most, I think. Makes those potential tiebreakers a little bit more or a little bit less likely to fall in our favour, I should say.
And to the man on my right, Mr. Bashara, how are you this evening? Pretty cool amongst the crowd here. A couple of Tigers legends got to
so it's pretty rowdy tonight. Yeah, if any Balmain supporters out there, there's Les Mara from the mid to late 70s. Great 5'8" for the Balmain Tigers. Just had a nice little introduction and chat with him. It's all right. We've moved on a bit, I think, from Sunday. I think we handled it pretty well. The cameras were off, Aaron, when your head was down, by the way.
No, I've watched back and I've seen it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, look, I remember Aaron looked pretty distraught after the game. I mean, I was more shell-shocked than angry or just disappointed. I thought we'd go out and have a go, and we were just smashed, absolutely smashed. There's not really much more you can say about it.
Yep, we're going to talk about it for a little bit. We'll get to your player. You can imagine what the player ratings were this week. There some very...
I could hazard a few guesses.
Yeah, it's very, very low numbers this week. But before we get into the rest of the show, Rob, tell us about our friend Jason over at iChoice.
Yeah, anyone wants their finance sorted, give Jason and his team a call, 9743 0000. They're on the corner of the Boulevard and Liverpool Road, Strathfield. I'm sure he can look after you if you give him a call. And as I always say, it's always a free quote. Everything's free from start to finish, whether you get finance or not. So please give him a call. He supports us, so please support him.
Yep. Yeah, I have no idea about things in terms of loans and that sort of thing. And Jason's so good to, if you're an idiot like me, you know nothing about finance and loans and that sort of thing. Jason's so good, and he's a Tigers fan, which makes it even better. Righto, a bit of news. Look, it's very. Let's start with I've got the headline here. Moses pulls off Journo, which happened, which is exactly how Fox Sports reported it the other night. For those that don't know, Mitchell Moses was on, what's the Channel 9 show?
100%
footy.
Yeah.
And Isaac Moses pulled our friend of the show, who's been on once before, Michael Chamis, wouldn't let Mitchell go on the show unless Michael was pulled off the show, or taken off the show, we should say. I have never... Look, there have been a lot of things that Isaac Moses has done that I've never, ever seen in rugby league, and this just added to that, Rob. Like, I thought it was like a joke. I thought, maybe they're just saying it because Michael had a night off or something. It's legit. He managed to get a TV show to pull a host just to get one of his clients on a magazine show. Is crazy. Yeah,
well, Channel 9 are awful for not supporting someone that's a regular on their show. I know I don't like Mitch Moses and Isaac Moses, but who the hell are they? Are they? It's not the King of England coming on the show. It's just an average footballer who's halfback for State of Origin. I don't know how he gets that much power. And further to that, I don't think Chamis was allowed on the show even after the Moses segment was on. Like, he was asked not to be anywhere near the premises. And from what I read today, it stems back to when Jason Taylor got sacked from the West Tigers all those years ago. And Chamis didn't want to basically go down the Isaac Moses path of being a paid puppet and saying what he wanted said. And he wanted to go his own way and report it in a different manner to how Isaac Moses wanted it reported. And they haven't spoken since. And obviously, with all this stuff going on about Galvin, whether he goes to Parramatta, Canterbury, all this sort of stuff, I know a lot of people strangely don't like Michael Chamis, but he's actually really objective. Sure, he criticises us from time to time, but I think when he criticises us, it's warranted, but he doesn't stick the boot in like some journalists do all the time. So he's, mate, that's Channel 9 and Michael's problem. I guess Michael's like, oh, well, I'll cop it for 1 week. He's that sort of bloke.
He would have got paid. And it would have been in his contract. He might have not minded. He would have probably got a night off, paid night off.
I think, obviously Michael gets a lot of, publicity and, promotion from being on Channel 9 as well. So I think he's just the sort of guy saying, oh, well, look, it's 1 week out of 25. I'll miss out. I'll cop it on the chin. But really poor by Channel 9 to do that to him. But again, anything to do with Isaac Moses, mate, if he could control the whole rugby league narrative, he would. He's just
insane.
He's just a blight on the game. Absolutely on the game.
We'll tie that into, obviously, the West Tigers. When it rained, it pours, as Jerome Luai's dad. And look, when someone DM'd it to us, to our West Tigers Life on, I think, on the Instagram or something, and said, oh, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh, I don't think it sounds like BS. That it was true. But I think Jerome's dad, he's just been a bit cheeky, as we didn't need it. And when West Tigers lose, it seems obviously the media's picked it up and ran with it. And another article that starts with, look away, Tigers fans, as that always seems to happen when we lose a game. Look, not needed, but I think we can forgive Jerome's dad for that little cheeky post.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit tongue-in-cheek. He did post after he deleted it, he did post, I think, a couple of days later, a thing saying his missus has sworn him off social media for a couple of days or something. It was just, tongue-in-cheek, probably a little bit of bad timing. And like you said, the media just likes to take that sort of crap and run with it. So that's exactly what they did. And, I mean, I don't think it needed to be made that big a deal out of, because obviously Jerome came out a few weeks ago and said he's in it for the long haul. Obviously, the clauses are still in his contract for the time being, but in saying that, he has committed to the club and he wants to be here for the long haul to help turn the place around. And, I mean, despite last week, so far so good in that department.
Are you
on
worried
and off the field?
Rob, are you worried at all about Jerome and his clauses and
Not at
that
all.
sort of thing?
Absolutely not at all. I think our fans need to know with the clauses, it's not the sort of clause, as Adele said the other day, where like Dylan Brown's got, where if he's not happy, he can leave. There are certain specific things that have to happen, and I don't know what they are exactly, but there's certain things that have to happen for him to actually be able to renege on his contract. For example, perhaps if Benji gets sacked, then maybe Jerome can leave. Or if we come last, then Jerome can leave. But he can't just leave for the sake of it because he wants to. Further to that, I don't think he can control what his dad says. The problem I've got with what his dad says is the media being the media and knowing we're clickbait, every week they're going to ask him that question until it's put to bed. But given how Jerome's played all year, what he said in the media, and, you know, I think Aaron mentioned it the week before last, when we played Cronulla, like that inspirational way he was revving the players up between full-time and extra time. He's heavily invested in the club, and he was one of the two players that was fully committed, in my opinion, the other day to winning. I got no problem with it. I think, you know, we've got a good person there. And again, if he was to leave, he's going to lose value if he does leave. He's not going to get the same money he's getting regardless. But I don't think he's the sort of bloke to just commit to something and walk out 5 minutes later.
100%. Also, non-Tigers related news, but the Las Vegas teams were officially announced today. So the Doggies will play the Dragons, the Cowboys will play the Knights. Is that right? Have I got that around the right way?
I think the Knights might be the home team for that one. Not sure yet, but the draw will come out for that.
Yeah.
But based on the way the games were announced in the article, there was like Team A plays Team B, and usually Team A is the home team. So it was Knights versus Cowboys was one of them, and Dogs versus Dragons was the other. So that might tell us who the home teams are for those.
Obviously, Richard didn't want to go. I hope the Tigers do get a crack at it. It would hopefully we can, I don't know, we'll do a GoFundMe or something to send us over to Vegas when the Tigers go.
It does seem likely that might end up being next year, because the NRL have confirmed, they confirmed early on that they did want all teams to go.
Have a crack.
And I mean, with only 5 teams left after next year now to not have gone, the odds of us going are about 80%.
So who's left? Us, Titans,
Dolphins, Storm.
Oh, we're going to play the Storm in Vegas.
And one more, or who I can't think of off the top of my head.
We'll probably get the bye. We'll be the one that misses out.
Para.
Yeah.
I hope we don't play. I actually would rather us play the Storm. At least we don't play them in Melbourne. We play them in Vegas. I'd rather play them in Vegas than Melbourne.
I mean, I wouldn't also mind playing Para in Vegas because...
No. Okay,
I know where you're going with this. You want the Sydney rivalry to stay in Sydney.
Derby should not be outside of Sydney.
Correct.
Magic round. Sorry, don't want to spill your wine.
Right. Maybe relocated to this table. It's a little bit stirred.
I'm wrecking the studio because this annoys me. We want crowds in Sydney. We always complain that we don't get crowds in Sydney. Dragons and Bulldogs is a huge matchup, like two huge fan bases.
But look at it the other way. Imagine how many of those fans want to travel to Las Vegas.
Yeah, but they would have travelled to watch. We could have done it Knights v Dragons and Cowboys v Bulldogs. It wouldn't matter. They'd still go. Why get rid of a Sydney derby of two big Sydney clubs? If it's Sharks, Manly or Roosters, don't care. They're minnow clubs. But if it's Tigers, Souths, Dragons, Dogs or Para, they should always play each other in Sydney, not at Magic Round. Like the Tigers, we played the Dragons at Magic Round. If we had played that at any of our home grounds, it would have been a huge crowd. And it's just a waste. You're burning. Sydney derbies are what get the big crowds. Now, I had a bit of a tongue-in-cheek dig at the Bulldogs for their filling up half of Bruce Stadium when 3 years ago they were hardly filling out half of their own stadium. But the Sydney derbies, as much as I despise the Bulldogs and Para and hate them, I also want to go to the games because they're the funnest. The Sydney derbies are the best. Like some of the best memories of games that we have are Sydney derbies with Tigers when we beat them, not so much when we lose to them. Like Souths on Sunday. I loathe the Bunnies, but I always want to play Souths at one of our like home grounds at Sydney. I'll play them at Accor when it's their time to play. Sydney derbies are the best games for us as Sydney fans, and it goes the same for Queensland as well. Don't send a Queensland derby. I mean, Titans, who gives a shit? But Dolphins, Broncos, Cowboys should not play each other. Throw the Titans. I'm only joking. Throw the Titans in there. They shouldn't play each other outside of Queensland as well. A little bit different because Townsville's so far away from Brisbane. It's almost another state in itself. But those derbies are great. How good are Cowboys Broncos games when they're in Brisbane? They're unreal. The Dolphins,
but only when they're in Brisbane. Only that's I'd rather the one team towns go over there. Of course, whoever plays New Zealand in New Zealand, it's a New Zealand crowd. Whoever plays the Cowboys in Townsville, it's a Cowboys crowd. Yeah. Take those games over to Vegas. It's not going to make any difference.
Don't burn these derbies in Vegas. They could have easily, like I said, just.
But that said, I want to go. Like I want us to be there. So.
If Tigers play, I don't know, the bloody Washington Bullets, like I'll go watch them play. I was trying to think of what are they called? Who plays the Washington Generals? I'm trying to think of
who plays the Harlem Globetrotters.
The Harlem Globetrotters. Went with the old Bullets instead. Right, moving on to we'll give. You've already mentioned, but the Adele Pod Sunday night. Rob will be doing it Sunday night pretty quickly after the game. So we had to do it Monday night, and then had issues with the uploading, so it ended up going live till mid-Tuesday. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to it, go back and have a listen. Even though it's about the shellacking that the Storm gave us. You guys talked a lot of things not around that game, like signings.
You don't want to harp on 11 tries. So we spoke about some of the players, Benji, how he reacts to it, what he does for this week against South. The players, Adele went into great detail, not only of our roster, but potential purchases that we can buy. New South Wales Cup players or fringe players that have played anything from 50 to 150 games at other clubs. And threw a lot of names out there just as hypotheticals, not to say that's his actual wish list, but they're the sort of types of players that I think he needs. And when we touch on our team later, Josh, you'll see why we do need signings ASAP. I'm not talking next year. I'm talking prior to June 30 because the cupboard is totally empty and we've hardly had any injuries.
Yep. Not today, not tomorrow, not after breakfast. Now. Do you know that reference as? No. You know that one? Shawshank Redemption. For those playing at home. Righto. Speaking of feeling like we were in prison, 64-0 to the Melbourne Storm. The Storm had us feeling like we were crawling through a mile of shit all Sunday. Where do we start with this one? As we've already kind of touched on it, but the game started. Look, a couple of arsey tries. We're not going to go through 11 tries, as Rob just said, but a couple of arsey ones to start with, and it kind of just got away from us, didn't it?
Yeah, once you really start on the back foot like we did, it's very hard to get back into the game. We've done that a couple of times this year, but the deficit grew so large so quickly this week that it was a little bit harder to kind of come back into it from there. I agree with what Adele said on Monday night. We are crying out for the bye. We desperately need one right now, considering the amount of travel we've had to do early in the season compared to all the other teams. Can't fault the effort, I'd say, in some regards. They kept on trying to show up for each other. It just wasn't clicking in attack or defense. There were some players who had a bit of a stinker. But, I mean, you look at some of the plays, like when Jerome Hughes makes that break in the second half, and you can still see 6 or 7 Tigers jerseys trying to chase him to run him down, which we succeeded in doing before they scored a try a couple of plays later. I think it might have been, or was that the one where we forced an error off that play, I think.
Farlongo.
Yeah, Farlongo dropped the ball out as he got tackled. So, I mean, there are still some of those things in there that we are still trying to do, even when things aren't going our way, which is good to see. But in saying that, it's, like I said at the start of the show, the dent to our for and against is probably what hurt us the most out of the game. And, it's a bit one of those throw it in the cupboard, never look at it again sort of games.
Yeah, we really, to make up that for and against, we really need to put 50 on someone this year. But it's not impossible. I mean, we've done it in previous years
twice. We can do it to them.
Yeah, we've done it to in our wooden spoon years. We put 50 on people like us. So I don't know. Maybe the top
66-18 to the Cowboys.
I'll just take 1 point win, boys.
No. Obviously, can we just get one of those days where the boys are on and it's a team towards the end of the year? They like because they're not in finals contention. It's a Sunday. Who we got at Leichhardt? Titans and
Cowboys.
Titans is pretty late in the year, isn't it?
Both of them are.
Yeah.
20 and 25.
Maybe the Titans are kind of put up shop. I don't know, because a lot of the team, it's hard because a lot of teams are it's so even that a lot of teams might be still in contention. But I don't know.
Really, the only teams you think might be out of it at the moment are the ones in the bottom two, which are the Titans and the Eels. I think the Titans are still second last. Actually, no, the Panthers are second last still, despite their 1 point.
But if, like I said on Twitter, if you can string 3 wins in a row, you can go from bottom to top 8.
Exactly.
And if you're top of the ladder and lose 3 in a row, you can go top of the ladder to out of the 8.
Yeah,
it's so close this year.
Just like what Rob was saying then as well, like he just wants to win games by 1 point. If we were to win every game from here by 1 point, we're still guaranteed finals. Probably not top 4 because for and against would kill us, but we'd still be guaranteed finals.
If we won every game from here, we are 100% top 4. Think about it.
You reckon?
We haven't lost a game. 100%. We're only, how far out of the top 4 are we now? 2 games?
2,
maybe 2 wins.
Yeah,
that means the teams coming fourth aren't going to lose more than 2 games for the rest of the year.
14, yeah.
What are we on 10?
2 wins, yeah, 14 for the Raiders.
We'd be top 4, but I mean, you're only talking hypotheticals. Though, anyway, so.
So a comment here. Grace, just on a bit of a tangent, she said another Tigers podcast mentioned the Taylor May deal should be done by the end of the week. Have you guys heard anything about that?
Look, I speak to a couple of the boys from the West Tigers podcast, and they think it's very close. And just a quick shout out to them. They did their 400th episode Monday night, so congrats to those guys. I don't know. I mean, I've heard also South are interested in Taylor May. So there's a chance either way. But again, Taylor May says he'd love to play with his brother. I think I understand the reasons certain fans within our club don't want him there. I think the risk to reward is, far greater. We've got a much better chance of him being successful with us and him failing. And I think if Richo was to sign him, I'm sure there'd be clauses there, no matter what the money is, that he would lose money if he misbehaved or whatever the case may be. So I think it's worth it. We've taken a lot of other problem people in the past, maybe not as bad as what he did, but, I'm not defending the bloke, but ultimately he got proven, or not proven, he was found not guilty in a court of law. And that's how we work in Australia. So you can't have him guilty if he's not guilty. So I'm happy to have him on board. In terms of his rugby league, I don't think anyone questions his rugby league. He's fantastic both sides of the ball. He's a strong defender. He's a strong attacker. He can play centre or wing. But given our centre issues, I think he'd most likely end up in the centre position. He hasn't done a preseason, so we need to give him a bit of time to acclimatise and
the
get
Magpies
fit.
could use. I mean, you'd sign him to maybe sign him to a Magpies
maybe a
contract.
gaming cup, and then maybe bring him back on the wing. But I think once he's fit and ready to go, I think people will put all that aside. And we have had a player that was charged with manslaughter, did his time and all that, but played for our club. Don't have to mention names or anything, but everyone knows who that is. So I mean, the bloke didn't kill anyone. So and again, he's still proven not guilty, but I know people are divided on that, and I respect their opinions on that. But I'd love to have him. But then again, when you've had 3 spoons in a row, I think I'm prepared to sell my soul to the devil at the moment for some finals footy.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like you said, he was proven. It doesn't necessarily mean he didn't do what he did to be found not guilty in court.
Well, he wasn't found not guilty. The case was dropped. So there's a bit of a difference there.
But he's not guilty then. Like officially, he hasn't been charged. Then he's not charged with anything. He hasn't got anything against his record.
Yeah.
So you can't stain him with something that he hasn't been found guilty of in a court of law, whether people like it or not.
From what I heard about the meeting he had with Richo, that was...
This is the one about 5-6 weeks ago?
Yeah, I won't say...
I heard that was out there.
I talked about it in the Discord. I won't say it on the air, but put it this way, it was quite embarrassing to the point that Richo kind of canned the meeting pretty quickly because he wasn't in the best. Look, everyone's seen him on social media and that sort of thing. So hopefully, we talked about it in the Discord. Maybe since then he's gone on some sort of
he's gone into rehab
sabbatical.
Or something.
That's what I've heard.
It will turn their lives around. I don't know for that quickly.
I'm fine either way. Whether we get him or not, I'm not fussed either way. I just know football-wise, he adds to our football team.
He also said some questionable things on his Instagram story around that same time of that meeting with Richo. So I've got some reservations and concerns around that side of things too. I just don't think he's been out of the game long enough to be able to have his head back in the game sort of thing after his quote-unquote mess has been quote-unquote sorted. So
we'll see how we go. We're 5-5. So anything else? Is there anything else you want to talk about this Melbourne Storm game? Do we just flush it down the toilet?
Well, you can flush it down the toilet, but, you know, I had a bit of a say on Sunday night with Adele, and I don't think I was emotional or anything like that. But basically, I think we were out-prepared, out-coached, outplayed. To go into a little bit of detail, Melbourne Storm really picked on our right side attack, so they really targeted a lot there. They also kicked a lot to Ruva and took advantage of the height mismatch with Xavier Coates, and we did nothing about it. Like, Taruva's played left wing, right wing at the Panthers and alternated week to week occasionally. We never sat at halftime and said, you know what, we're getting towelled up with these kicks. Let's swap sides and put him on the shorter Farlongo. And then further to that, we only put 2 bombs up to Farlongo the whole game. It wasn't until the second half where we kicked it to him in the shade. We never worked any kicks to their right-hand side with the sun in his eyes, not one kick. And Nathan's got a height advantage on him there. And further to that, which I only found out in the commentary doing the watch back, apparently the Melbourne Storm have the worst right side defence in the league prior to Sunday. 19 tries conceded in the whole comp. What did we do? We attacked Anderson. Nothing wrong with that because we found him out a couple of times and we created a couple of overlaps, but we never attacked that right side of Melbourne either. So you have to question what we did tactically. I definitely question Staines. I know we had bugger all options, but Staines was the worst of the available options, in my opinion. He played a great game against St George the week before on the left wing, and we threw him into right centre. Tried his hardest, but he's just a fish out of water. He's a specialist winger. He's not a centre. So I think we did a lot wrong. But again, we've seen from losing to Para, and it was all doom and gloom, and I was the king of doom and gloom that week. We bounced back and we beat Newcastle, and then it was doom and gloom again. We're not going to beat Cronulla, and then we beat Cronulla. So a week is a long time in footy. We'll get onto the team shortly, but I just feel, like Adele said, like I said, if we're screaming out for the bye, well, the bye comes the week after South, not the week before South. So we might be in a bit of trouble this week.
Yep. Let's only a couple of clips of Benji because a pretty short press conference this week.
We've got to be better than that. We've built standards, again, that we want to live by, and today we didn't live by any of them. So, yep, everyone's disappointed, embarrassed, probably a few other words you could use, but it's not good enough. There's losing the game, and then there's being beaten, and we got actually beat today. We've got a team that usually fights for everything, and I just didn't see the same fight today. So in the balance of our season, we're 5-5 now. Reflect where we are, and we've got to learn from it, and we've got to get back up for next week. And we can't dwell on that. We can hurt from it, take the hurt into next week and improve, but we can't dwell on it and take it.
Az, what are your thoughts on that? Because I could not hear a single thing. It's so loud in here. I couldn't actually hear Benji talking there. Give us a quick summary of what he said and your thoughts on it.
Yes, I could hear most of it. He basically commented on the fact that we're 5-5 and need to sort of reset a little bit and take a look at where we are and what we want to go and what we need to do from here and what that looks like moving forward. Obviously, like we've said, we're crying out for a bye. We've got 2 of them over the next 5 weeks. So we've got a little bit of a period now where we get to freshen up a little bit and hopefully get some troops back as well. So like by the time we get through the end of our second bye, we should have most of our team back by then. But it's pretty tough playing 11 straight weeks, including 5 trips out of Sydney, including 3 to Queensland. 3 to Queensland, 1 to Melbourne, 1 to Newcastle, obviously out of Sydney. So, to have that sort of travel load and not have a bye somewhere in the middle, like Adele mentioned, teams like the Bulldogs have had to travel almost as much as us, but they've already had a bye. Other teams like the Cowboys who have to do a lot of travel generally on their schedule, they've already had a bye. Teams like the Broncos who don't have to travel as much because they still manage to get to play away games at Suncorp. And the fact that most of the away games they've played so far have been their Queensland rivals, except for, they've had a trip to Sydney to play the Rabbits. I think they've had another trip to Sydney maybe to play another team, but I can't quite remember off the top of my head who that might be. But, I think the team really need to kind of look in the mirror a little bit, have a little bit of a reset. hopefully, like Adele said, they got a bit of a freshen up this week into the final game before this bye. And hopefully we see where we're at after this week and hope our season's still on track.
All right. Some more comments from the Supercoach.
Well, it's sort of like a couple of steps forward and then a few steps back, and we took a lot of steps back today. So we're not working for us. We know the process we need to apply, and we just didn't apply any of it today. So it's probably something I need to look at with the way I coach this week and see what I can improve next week to help the team. I think we all need to just look in the mirror and be better for next week. They're like, everyone knows how good they are and how hard they are to beat at home. And they got on a roll, and we just couldn't get anything back. So it's going to be a hard review and a hard watch. But like I said, you got to learn from it. And I guess we've set an expectation now where we're expected to be better than that, and we are better than that.
All right, Benji, there, Rob saying we are better than that.
We are better
learn
than
from
that.
it. Learn from it.
Well, one thing Benji does say that I always appreciate, he says, I've got to look at myself. Was our preparation right? What can I do better this week? And, I'm not picking on him, but he got it wrong. And what bothers me about getting the preparation wrong is he admitted after the St. George game in the press conference there, he said, we won, but we're not happy with what we did. We've got standards. We've got to be better. Like the warning signs were there, and he couldn't get the boys up. It's one thing Storm putting 64 points on, but if you watch back that game and look at our line speed and our contact and inability to hold the ball carrier and stop them from offloading, it was awful. And I don't know how they recover from that without a freshener and, to be fair, without a bye. And we're missing a couple of troops this week, especially in the forward pack, and it might hurt us in the forward pack. I think our back line looks great, but anyway, we'll talk about that soon.
Yep, that's all right. We can officially flush that game. Let's move on to no, we can't. We've got to do the play ratings.
I think the other part of the game as well, like the Storm have had some big performances in the first halves of their games this year, and they've kind of fallen away a little bit in the second half. And I think Craig at halftime probably really put the rocket up their butts to make sure they didn't let the game slip in the second half, like they had previously. Like obviously Parramatta in round 1 won the second half against them. Manly in round 4, I think it was, won the second half against them. The Warriors, I think, might have come close to winning the second half against them on Anzac Day. So I have a feeling that was probably a part of their halftime chat as well, not to do the same thing in the second half.
So May's averaging over 70 minutes a game, and we're not going to talk about the 11 tries, but if you look at the last try or one of the last tries where Munster just runs at May and runs around and put someone in a hole, I forget who it was. You just see how tired Terrell May is. Like he is screaming out for a rest, and they're exhausted, mate. They're absolutely exhausted. I think Terrell May's given it his all for 10 weeks, so 100% no criticism of it. But when even in the old days, you go back 50 years, coaches always used to say, get the little blokes to run at the big guys who are tired. And Terrell looks buggered. He looks absolutely buggered. And I just feel sorry for him because I can see how drained he is, and he needs a couple of weeks off.
Good comment from loyal listener Emmanuel. Good to meet Emmanuel. Emmanuel was here on Sunday, joined us for the OG for the watch along. He said it could have been worse if Harry Grant played. So he didn't even have Harry Grant.
There was no Harry Grant. There was no Jack Howarth. There was no Will Warbrick. So they were missing 3 players. We were missing 2 players, weren't we? Starfatoa, Jack Bird, and
Skelton.
Skelton.
They couldn't have been worse if they were there.
You want the good news? And this is one statistic that you're always on every week on Twitter. We didn't concede a try 5 minutes before halftime, and we didn't concede one 5 minutes after halftime. That was about the only positive. But the sad part is they still put 64 on us.
Yeah, it was just terrible. All right, player ratings time. So for those who don't know, after the game is finished, I send out a Google form, and everyone has the ability to not only write a rant, which we'll get to later as well. 2 of those ranters will win a $20 Orange Grove voucher as well. You can rate every player 1 to 10, and here are the averages of the players for this week. Dream Buller, he was one of 2 players to get a pass mark. He got top score of 6.0. This is where it gets worse. So Sonia Taruva, 3.6. Adam Dwayne 3.6. Brett Naden 2.6. Charlie Staines 2.6. I should add there's no 0. You can only do 1 minimum when you vote. Lachlan Galvin 2.0. Jerome Luai 4.6. Terrell May, he's the other pass mark, 5.1. Api Coruscant 3.9. Vinod Bole 3.5, having gone off injured. Unfortunately, he's out for quite a while. We'll talk about that as well. Samuela Fainu 3.6. Poor Alex Safaf 2.5. Twali 4.0. He's one of the highest scores with 4 there. Talon Silva 2.8. Royce Hunt 3.6. Sione Fainu 4.4. Tony Suka 3.2. Look, there's some low numbers there, boys. Is anyone... Look, a lot of people after that game probably went through and just gave everyone a 1 because they were just pissed off. Is anyone... Look, Sione Fainu, I thought was maybe a part... Would you give Sione Fainu a pass mark? I thought he looked...
I mean,
right.
I don't know what we're meant to expect when some of these people would have filled out these forms within an hour or two of full time. There's no one on the weekend was a 2 or a 3. Maybe there was 4s in there, but no one was a 2. And I can see 1, 2, 3. I can see 4 2s, and I can see about 7 or 8 3-point something. I think that's pretty over the top, to be fair. But I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I saw one comment when we were picking the awards for who wins the voucher. Someone wrote, I would have voted a 0, but the lowest number you could vote was 1.
That's why I said.
There's some emotional voting, but that's okay. I mean, I don't think it matters. Look, I think the ones that played well have pretty much been marked up there. I've got to be honest. When I did my 3-2-1, for the one, I just went to the stats. If I don't laugh at me, I rewatched the game. Okay, 80 minutes, not highlights.
Yeah. Right. And
having rewatched the game, I actually would have given Appy a point, but I'm not. He didn't get a point off me this week. But some of the tackles he did on Asafa Solomona and a couple of other things he did, they were actually quite good. But mate, we lost 64-0. Like you're not going to be giving 8s and 9s to anyone.
Yeah. As anyone unfairly treated in the list?
No, I can't. No, I kind of expected low scores all around. Obviously, I saw the comments as well where people were saying they'd give 0s if it was an option. But I thought overall the team was probably a little bit better than the scores that we've been given. But like Rob said, people are going to vote emotionally if they're voting immediately after the game, and emotions would have been very high and very frayed as well. So the thing I was curious about though was who was going to get the lowest score. I did not expect it to be Lockie Galvin, but I can understand why, given a lot of people probably would have been upset seeing some of his last tackle plays and some of his some of his options that he took a little bit early in the tackle count as well.
Why don't we talk about that? That? Because I think his last tackle options in the first half, the end over end grubber kicks were poor.
Yeah,
but I've had so many people say on social media to me, Lockie Galvin didn't try. I think it's a load of shit.
Yeah, he tried.
And you could even see, it's hard when everyone's playing poorly. And I know sometimes when he does something wrong, when he's looking for that big play and he runs sideways and tries to create something, he looks bad. Look, his kicking was poor, but there was one moment where I realised, that he wasn't tanking or he wasn't. His best mate, Talon De Silva, threw an awful ball in front of Jerome Luai. And when it was dropped, you should see the reaction of Galvin. He knows it was a poor pass from his best mate and he was filthy. Now, anyone who's tanking or not trying to win wouldn't be upset if he wasn't being competitive. So I get he had a poor game. His kicking was awful. I think Adele said on Sunday he made 28 tackles and maybe 4 missed. I don't know what his stats were, but no, he wasn't great, but he wasn't not trying and he wasn't as poor as a few other people out there. That's all. I don't think he's the worst. But given we know he's leaving us, he's always going to cop that extra. Yeah, if he has.
It's also the Luke Brooks effect, I think. In the past, when we've done these player ratings and Luke Brooks, when the team underperformed, Luke Brooks was the one who copped a lot of the bulk of it.
And they
especially
are the half.
As we found. Yeah,
they are the
halves is probably the hardest position to play in the modern game because of how much work you have to do and how much of the pressure relies on, or how much of the pressure is on your shoulders.
You get the most money though.
And then you've also True, but you've also got the fullback and the hooker who are up there
Yeah.
in that department as well. It's like the spine, the 1, 6, 7,
Yeah.
and 9. So
Like if Galvin has his best game this week against South, like a 9 out of 10 game, and we do these numbers next week,
He might
he'll
still
be
get a
about
6 or a
7, 7.5.
Mm.
Yep.
Yeah. People, it's on a scale.
he'd have to play near on perfect.
And I'm not
like
going to be a
10 tries
hypocrite. I'm
to-
filthy that he's leaving. Like, I'm really filthy that and I was really upset with some of the kicks he did because they weren't kicks at 40-something to nil. They were kicks when we were down 10-0 or 16-0. Like, we were in the game. Like, a one good kick could have been really good. He did one on the second last tackle. But to be fair to him, not that they did many kicks, Buller did a really bad grubber kick. And Jerome Luai did a really bad grubber kick. Like, every grubber kick we did was awful. And then you do the kicking game of Melbourne, and I go back to that first freaky try that Pappenhausen scored. Munster gets the ball on the last tackle from the left side of the field. Remember, Munster's a left footer. Their plan was to attack Taruva with Xavier Coates. He kicks it with his right foot back cross field for Coates to end up jumping up and getting it. They had a plan. They stuck to it. And every time we were doing a grubber kick to the right, I'm thinking, why are we kicking it in the sun to Faulongo and a high kick? And we saw him let one bounce in the second half as well. So I just think tactically we were rubbish. Like, the game plan was shit and we played like shit and you cop shit for it.
Yep. Righto. So we did manage to get a 3-2-1. So based on your votes, the highest voted person gets a 3. So Dream Buller got the 3, Terrell May got the 2, and Jerome Luai got the 1. Who are your 3-2-1 this week?
So I gave my 1 point to Alex Twal. He was probably one of the guys out there who tried the absolute hardest. I was going through the stats like Rob did as well to give my 1 point to someone. And I mean, trying to think about the game as I was going through, like looking at the teams, like I kind of ticked off a couple of players in my head who I could potentially give you the 1. And I put a cross through some players. I was like, I couldn't really give you the 1. And eventually a process of elimination, I got it down to Alex Twal. And I just looked at some of his stats. 30-odd tackles, none missed in a game where we conceded 64. That's a mammoth effort. He also played 40-something minutes, so like 46 or 47 minutes, 30-odd tackles, none missed is a great showing when you're as solid player defensively as he is, even though the team is getting absolutely whooped. I gave my 2 to, I'm trying to remember which order. Dream Buller got my 2. I thought for the 2 and the 3, I found them very hard to split. Both players tried their hardest. Both really tried to keep the team up as long as they could and not to let things get too out of hand. But I was really impressed with Buller again. He's come on in leaps and bounds so far in the probably the second half of the games we've played so far this year. He's really finding his place, and I can't wait to see how much more he's going to develop. And Jerome Luai, the captain, got my 3. I thought he was in and abouts with a lot of the plays we tried to put on, a lot of the defensive moments there as well. I think he might have made one error, but overall, as a captain and as a leader of this team, he didn't drop his head. He tried to keep the team upbeat, tried to basically get the team through the game, and on to next week.
RB?
I went the same 1 point with Alex Twal. Again, I did it statistically. Having rewatched the game today, I probably would have given it to Api Coruscant, given he had some really good moments. But as Aaron said, for him to do 32 tackles, none missed, he only ran 66 metres. He had an offload. But when you lose 64-0 and there's a player that hasn't missed a tackle, I think you're doing pretty good there. So I'm not too upset that I've given
people out there that don't want Alex Toll on the West Side.
Because I tell you what you will notice with Toll when you rewatch the game, because I really kept an eye on him just to see how he did play. He's still getting pushed back a lot when he's tackling. Like you might be the attacker and he grabs you, and then even if it's a back, he's kind of going backwards with you 3 or 4 meters. Like, he's not. Maybe he's looking for the bye too, But to his credit, he didn't miss anyone. He had an offload. He only had 66 meters. My 2 points I gave to Luai. He didn't have a great game, but as Adele mentioned on Sunday, he didn't stop competing. Some of his execution was poor. He did a couple of bad kicks, but one thing I did notice, and I mentioned it Sunday, it's the first time I've seen him go north when he digs into the line in attack. He wasn't going sideways, and he did create a lot of space for our outside men. Our outside men just weren't good enough to take advantage of it. And I thought Jareen Buller was heads up the best player on the field. He, other than a poor grubber kick in the first half, he really didn't miss a beat. That chase down he did on Farlongo, and then for him to lose the ball was excellent. He looked dangerous every time he got the ball in attack. Would have been nice if he put the ball on Charlie Staines' chest. Might have got us back into the game to 10-6. But he's been playing lights out all year, and I keep saying he's definitely our best player, and he's certainly our most important attacking weapon.
So the totals at the moment, Jareen Buller's reeled in, got a few points this week. So he's reeled in Terrell. Terrell's on 54, Dream's on 40. So only a 14-point gap there. Vanua Bole's on 22. Unfortunately, we might as well use that to talk about Vanua. Apparently he's out for
7 weeks.
7 weeks.
Mate, as Aaron said,
7, yeah.
5 games I think it works out to, but it's 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Man, he
misses most of the origin period, basically.
Best season of his career, and we lose him for that. That's going to hurt.
It's a huge loss, because you'll get onto our team shortly when that Aaron will read out. But when you see our team this week, you have to question a few things we've done. But again, will it be the 17 that we go out with on Sunday? And I guess we have to trust in whatever Benji's doing. But certainly the cupboard looks really empty, not only in our forward stocks, but in our backs, given that we played a winger at centre.
Carla made a good point, as, yeah, like you said, we've got 2 buys in there. So 2 games, 2 week off, so we don't miss him. So an extra 2 weeks for him to recover. But, yeah, it sucks.
What are the comments like tonight? Are we getting any positive ones, negative ones?
Emmanuel asked, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a Shiraz.
Shiraz.
Just whatever was open there. There was one choice.
One choice?
Thanks, Emmanuel. Sorry I didn't have a beer with you Sunday, mate.
Actually, Emmanuel bought me a beer. Thank you, Emmanuel. He did buy me a beer. He offered me a second one, but I was driving. Thank you very much. Join us next away game, as I said, in a couple of weeks' time. All right, your best rants from the for this week. Ben said, every single positive just got eroded. I don't care about the fitness excuse. They are professional players. No effort, no hunger, no desire, no passion for the jersey. Absolutely crap themselves against a huge test. Rotten to the core. Galvin put in an effort you could suggest as tanking. May let Origin talk get to him. Luai ran further sideways than forwards. I disagree with everything Ben says, but that doesn't mean I won't bring.
But you read it out.
Look, I'll put on comments.
Yeah, good on you.
That I disagree with.
Yeah, of course you should.
Everyone's
yeah, that's fair enough.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion. And that's why, I'll read it out. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. No one's wrong. Chris Wood said the fire was really starting to get in the belly again. I'd say it's not ice cold. Even the bad teams don't. Also, I asked Chat GPT, how many games in the NRL have resulted in 60 or more points since the year 2000? It responded with 13 events, and we own 4 of them. We have to rectify the floodgate opening when it goes wrong. Not good. Not a good stat for us there. Brendan says, sitting through that live stream with you fellas he's here tonight as well. Good on you, Brandon. With you fellas during the game was one of the hardest things to go through. Apologies for over-speaking and being very emotional during that flogging. Look, we all were. Hopefully I just relayed what we were all thinking during the time of the game. This just felt like 22-24 Tigers. I was just so full of hope for a new chapter. We just never seem to get nice things happen to us Tigers fans. It's soul-crushing, heartbreaking, confidence degrading on so many levels. I just hope Benji and Richo have a plan to get us out of this situation. Mad Andy said, Storm were red hot. Nobody would have beaten them. What really gave me the shits was the Tigers players smiling after the game. I turned away from the TV and kind of stopped. Did you notice any players smiling?
I saw the photo of Fanua Bole smiling at the end of the game.
He's from Melbourne, so he might have had fans.
Yeah, he's got friends there. He'd been off the field since the 20th minute. Not making excuses, because I'm old school. I hate that shit. I don't want to see you go smile in the dressing room with your mates. Go visit them in the dressing room. But I don't like seeing it on the field personally. But I get why it's okay in the modern era.
And a great poem from David Nicotra this week. At Leichhardt, they gathered all Tigers with pride. Then Pappy showed up and went for a ride. He danced, he dashed, mate, he teleported. And 64 points were coldly recorded. Luai threw one that hit a seagull in flight. Benji's aside, well, not our night. But hope's not lost. There's fire in the flame. Next week, we tackle someone, at least in the game. So laugh through the pain. It's part of the climb. We'll roar again. Just give it some time. Good on you, David.
Bravo, David. Bravo.
Winners this week. Who picked Kyle? Read out Kyle's. Kyle, send us a DM or an email at podcast@westlife.com, and I'll pass it on to the Orange Grove here, and there'll be a $20 voucher for you to come claim.
All right, so Kyle said, was always going to be a hard ask against the Storm in Melbourne, except I wasn't expecting to lose by this extent. Reminded me of the Tigers of old. Unlike the Tigers of old, though, I think we will bounce stronger for this loss. Maybe this is what the players needed. They should be embarrassed, and I'm expecting them to come out swinging next week. Up the Tigers, win, lose, or whatever the hell that was.
And likewise for Ben, who's Rob's choice.
That was last week's.
That was last. I've got Rollo's here. So
okay.
that was Rollo's. Okay, so Rollo said, travelled from Brisbane to Melbourne with optimism to watch the game. Won't be doing that again. The startling difference in professionalism in the warm-ups was concerning and immediately triggered alarm bells. Storm preparation performance have the precision of a Swiss watch. It's no coincidence things appear to go their way as I witnessed. There's no luck in execution of Storm's game plan. Tigers didn't give up, however, didn't have the composure to compete with a team that appeared much fresher in mind and body. On the bright side, Tigers finished second in the game.
Nice work. All right, let's move forward. Tigers play the Rabbitohs 6:15 on Sunday. We'll be out there at Campbelltown to watch the boys go round. Hopefully they can bounce back. Do you want to run through the team list for us, please?
All right, so starting with the Tigers, we've got Jareem Buller at fullback, Stania Taruva and Charlie Staines on the wings, Adam Dewey and the returning Stafford Toa in the centres, Lachlan Galvin and Jerome Luai in the halves, Terrell May and Royce Hunt as starting props with Vanua Bole missing, Api Coruscant still at hooker, Samuela Fainu and Alex Seyfarth in the second row with Alex Twal at lock. Brent Naden moves to the bench in jersey 14. Tony Suka, Jack Bird and Sione Fainu make up the rest of the bench. Heath Mason is 18th man. The rest of our reserves are Talon De Silva, Solomona Fa'atape, Ruben Porter and Tristan Hope.
Rob, make that bench make sense. The bench. What gives?
I'm so deaf right now, mate. This noise is deafening in here. What was it?
The bench.
The bench. Okay. Well, look, let's start with the good news. The back line looks pretty good. We're missing Skelton for Staines, so I think that's good. The bench. Look, I'm going to be straight up, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this. We're doing the podcast Sunday night with Adele because I'll be home at 8:30, and the reason I'll be home at 8:30 is when I saw Naden at 14, I said I'm not going to the game. I'm absolutely filthy that if that is a 17 that runs out, this reminds me of 2012 when Tim Sheens used to put Mitch Brown on the bench and he wouldn't get a game or he might get 2 minutes at the end of the game. Sure, it's coverage for an outside back, but we've got no coverage for Api Coruscant. If a half goes down, I don't know, what do we do? Put Jack Bird at 6 or something? Like Jack Bird could have done most of that coverage for an outside back. We could have moved Adam to a wing, Bird into centre, do what we've done previously. And it's nothing against Brent Naden. It's just about having a smaller body. If it was a hooker, I could accept it because that way he's sharing the minutes with Api Coruscant. But to actually just have a straight up back on the bench, in my opinion, it's stupid. Benji's a coach. We've got to trust what he's doing. But I'm not going to say it after the game, told you so. I'd rather say before the game, I told you so, because I just think it's one of the worst moves ever.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we are really low on troops at the moment. And I just want to mention there, Rob, Brent has played some halves for New South Wales Cup.
Yep.
Obviously, it is a massive step up doing the same thing in first grade if a half was to go down. Touch wood, that doesn't happen. But, yeah, like we are really light on trips at the moment. How do you feel personally about Royce Hunt starting?
Royce Hunt gives us a lot of impact off the bench, which, I mean, it's plain to see, and I'm not saying anything out of the ordinary there. I'll tell you what I do like about it, if it comes off. If Royce Hunt, if we can get 15 to 20 minutes out of him, I'm sure we'll get 15, but hopefully 20. If he plays 20 and he comes off, he gets 20 minutes rest, he gets a 10-minute halftime break, he comes on with, say, 20 minutes left in the game, suddenly we've got 40 minutes out of him and he's had a 50-minute rest. So I think this is the way to actually maximise Royce Hunt's minutes. Now, let's hope it's quality because we know he's better in 10 or 15 minutes in. So I understand the logic of playing Royce Hunt to start with, and I've got no problem with it. And dare I say, I think Benji wants to get ahead early and try and hang on to a lead. But the rest of that bench, like obviously we've got 2 regulars in Jack Bird and Sione Fainu, but no offense, Tony Suka hasn't even played 5 games yet in the NRL, so that bothers me. And how do you use Brent Naden? Like, unless we lose a player injured, straight up injured, how do you use Brent Naden? I don't. He's not going to play dummy half. He might play a bit of half. I know you said he was Wally Lewis in reserve grade or whatever. He had a couple of good games in New South Wales Cup last year. But it's just, I don't get it whatsoever. And again, maybe it's cover for Stafford Toa. But if Stafford Toa's not right, don't play him. Get him right. Don't play him this week. Let him have the bye and let him be ready in 3 weeks. So, I don't get it. But obviously, we don't know who's carrying niggles, who's not carrying niggles. But it just shows you how wafer thin. Like, I thought, and again, he might not be up to it. I thought we would have played Kit Laulii or brought another forward up there. But maybe we're named Toa and Toa's not going to play and Naden comes into the team or Fata Ape comes onto the bench. I don't know what he's doing, but I just hate that Brent Naden is 14. And again, it's not about Brent Naden. If Fata Ape was 14, if Folletti was 14, if anyone other than a hooker was 14 or could play hooker, I'm very unhappy about it. I think it's just the bench has no balance whatsoever.
Can you think of any reason at all why Talon might have been dropped for this one?
6 tackles missed in 30 minutes. 2 poor passes from dummy half. Just an attitude. He went by himself the wrong way when we were set up left on the last tackle. He went right in the first half and put a grubber kick that was much like every other grubber kick that all his teammates made in the first half last weekend. He was awful. I'd be happy with Tristan Hope to get a run. I don't mind that, but I just feel like Benji's basically, in my opinion, he's decided Appy's going to play 80 and Terrell's going to play 80. So I don't know how the rest of that bench is going to work. I really don't.
Yeah, I also think maybe he's trying to give him some minutes in reserve grade just in case.
Yeah, that's a possibility too. But I think Benji's priority more than anything is to win this week, more than getting Talon to Silva minutes in Cup. If Talon makes us a better team, Benji's playing Talon. He's obviously not happy with what Talon's done, but he's fair enough. Benji said we've got standards and all that, but if we've got standards, whether he was injured or not, I don't know how Brent Naden kept his spot after the St. George game. He did a couple of good things the weekend. I'm not denying that, but
yeah,
we're protecting him playing on the wing. He's meant to be our number 1 centre in the club, and he's let us down badly as a centre. He's awful.
I was more thinking the reason could be Origin related potentially. Like if, say, for example, Appy does get selected to play Origin, he's probably not going to play a lot of minutes in round 13 against the Cowboys because that's, I think, he's not getting picked 3 days later. He might. Out of all of our players, he's the most likely.
They'll give it to Robson. Robson last week, he dropped a couple of balls. He's so robotic. He's so boring. He's got absolutely zero creativity. Like I'd have Appy, and I'm pretty sure, regardless of which hooker they go with, they'll play Connor Watson because Connor Watson's going to be a 14. So I don't think whoever plays Origin, they're not going to be expected to play 80 minutes anyway. So I'd have Appy personally, but the days of Ben Elias and Steve Walters, like he was called Boxhead for a reason. You know, he just ran from dummy. He was like a second rower running from dummy half. He was a big unit, had absolutely no creativity, where Ben Elias had all the tricks in the bag, and that's what Appy is. Appy's that same type of player. But anyway, look, it's probably in our favour that no one gets picked. But again, I don't want the West Tigers to be a place where if you come to our club,
run us through South Sydney as.
All right. Fullback is Latrell Mitchell. returning on the wings, so I'd probably put him down for a double. Is
Number
Alex
2, Latrell
Johnston.
Mitchell. Number 17, Latrell Mitchell.
The other winger is Bailey Bentley Harpe, Isaiah Tass and Campbell Graham in the centres, Jaden Sullivan and Jamie Humphreys in the halves, Jai Arrow and Keon Kaloa-Matangi in the front row with Saliva Havili at hooker, Ewan Aitken and Tallis Duncan in the second row with Lachlan Hubner at lock. Their bench is Jai Gray, Sean Kepi, Davey Moale and Liam LeBlanc. Their 18th man is Tavita Totola. The rest of their reserves, Lewis Dodd, Josh Schuster, Fletcher Myers and Jacob Host.
Obviously, Latrell had a blinder last week.
Almost single-handedly won in the game.
As Adele
Nearly
would always
50-metre
say.
field goal.
As Adele would always say, he's your key indicator. Whether he is, you got to watch him. In terms of their attack, I think even though he's not a great defender, we've got to watch that Jaden Sullivan's show and go. He seems to like playing against us as opposed to doing more when he's with us. Ewan Aitken is also a liability in defence, but again, he's a really strong hole runner. So we probably got to keep an eye on Aitken. Interesting that Kolomatangi is playing prop. I'm actually kind of happy about that because he's a really damaging edge runner. Having him in the middle might make our job a bit easier. But I think South's team is just more balanced in the forwards. Their bench is better. The one thing where they do have a problem, I saw Jai Gray come on last week in that wet weather match against Brisbane. He did not handle dummy half well at all. His passing was awful, and he wasn't out on the field for very long. So I think Havili's going to have to play really, really long minutes this week. So they have a bit of a problem at dummy half like we do in terms of a backup option, but I'm sure they'll run with him. But, yeah, he really needs to get his dummy half work better to be better. Jamie Humphreys has got a good kicking game. I'm not real fussed. I don't really care about their outside backs too much. Campbell Graham's named at centre, but, Aaron, you've probably seen Campbell Graham is named at centre, but he's playing on the wing all the time. So he'll be obviously alternating with Hope there, Bentley Hope. Tass scored a good try on Stags last week. There's plenty of talent. And obviously, of course, it wouldn't be a West Tigers game without a star player coming back, Josh, and Alex Johnson.
That's why I put him down for a double.
But
again,
is he that good though?
They're missing Whiten. You know, they're missing Cody Walker. Obviously he's been out all year, but they're missing Cameron Murray.
Yeah.
So they're still missing a few players. There's probably other players. I'm not really all over South's squad, but I know there's other players out because I think 2 weeks ago they were missing 9 players against Newcastle. I don't think they've got 6 of them back. It feels like they've got a few back, including Latrell, but I still think they're missing quite a few players. But I don't know how we're almost even money. I think they should be clear favourites given on what we did last Sunday.
Sorry, just a few comments about
Jamie Humphreys has been a really good find for them, I think. Obviously, he played a very short amount of game time at Manly. I think he might have played 1 or 2 games before signing with Souths and then moving there this year. And he's been really good. Like he's been. When Latrell was out, he was the barometer for how well they were going to go. And they did a lot of good things. Like, I think at one point they were 3rd or 4th still early in the season. Like, they had a really good start to the season. And it was the loss to the Roosters, I think, that started to cause a bit of a downward turn for them. And they ended up dropping down to 3rd. And now they're 1 behind us in 11th. So they've had a little bit of an up and down season as well. A good start with not a great.
They'd lost 5 in a row.
Yeah,
they'd lost 5 in a row prior to beating Brisbane. So they'll be on a bit of a high. Obviously, they've had a significant amount of extra rest compared to us, and we're coming back from a travel. So they played Friday night, didn't they, Aaron? Was it Friday or Thursday?
Hey.
Anyway, they've had 48 hours extra rest, and they didn't have to travel. So the odds are against us, but I don't like these Sunday night games at 6 o'clock personally.
It's interesting, though. They're another one of the teams that haven't had a bye yet. So, obviously, 10 rounds in, 10 teams have had a bye, 7 teams have not. So, the fact that we're playing another team that hasn't had a bye yet could be really interesting, but they haven't had to do as much travel as us as well. It's another thing there.
Okay, let us know in the comments the sound. Apparently, the video is a bit jumpy, but that's all right. As long as the sound's coming through.
As long as everyone else can hear, we can hardly hear each other. As long as everyone else can hear us.
This is ridiculous, to be honest.
No, I think it's the internet, not.
I mean, it's good for the OG that they've got plenty of customers, but you're sitting a metre to my left and I can't hear you.
Yeah, that's why I got the headphones on. I can hear you guys through the mic.
There's usually a speaker in the venue as well. Normally, I can sort of hear myself in the background through the
That's
speaker,
right.
but I can't even hear that right now.
Let's get on to our tips for this week. So bring them up. First game of the round. Well, Origin tomorrow night as the Blues get up.
I'm cheering. I think the Blues should get the job done tomorrow night. Obviously, we've got 2 of our Tigers girls in there. I'm really looking forward to this game. We get the chance to wrap up the series 2-0 on home soil. That'll be awesome. I think they can get the job done. The Queenslanders, I think, will be licking their wounds a little bit after game 1, and they'll be fired up. So we're going to have to absorb a really fast start from them. But, yeah, I'm backing the Blues girls to get the job done.
They can't handle our forwards, mate.
I don't think so either.
No, we're too powerful.
Like I said, we've just got to handle their start. If we handle their start, if we go into halftime either even or even or ahead, we should have it from there.
Okay, Knights v Para. I just realised we're all on 44 points. We're all tied.
What happened to you guys last week? And I'm not bragging because my one hot take last week was wrong. I told everyone that Canberra and Canterbury was going to be unders, and everyone, it was just a try-scoring-a-thon. Yeah,
I died in the ass. The first tip I got a point from was the draw. I was 0-5 going into that game that ended up being a draw.
Oh, it's one of those points to the draw. Do we get a point?
Yeah, so a lot of comps, if they don't give you an option to tip a draw, you get a point for it. So I literally only got one tip correct, which was the Storm. I got every other game wrong. I zagged when everyone else zigged.
Well, the Storm will buy mine.
But this has really bloody hurt me and all my tipping comps to get a score this low at this point. And just like my thoughts about the season, my thoughts about my tipping comps are slipping through my fingers too.
I've gone the Knights. Az gone the Knights. Rob, you've gone Para. I went.
You know how much I hate Para. I absolutely despise them. I think this is the week that if Newcastle are trying to get rid of their coach, they lose. And I feel like they've been wanting to get rid of their coach. They didn't lose to South the other week because South were missing 9 players. But, I'd love Newcastle to win. I think they've got a better team. I just don't think they're playing for each other. And Para are they're starting to get a little bit better. They're not winning games, but I think Moses will want to have a big game before Origin. So as much as it pains me, I'd rather get my tip wrong. I'd love Newcastle to win and be none out of one because I hate Para.
Lomax is a massive in for Para
That's
as well.
That's a big in as well.
That adds another dimension to their attack.
I didn't realise he's back.
I say every week that, there hasn't been a harder tipping week. I can honestly see 8 games can potentially go to Golden Point this week. That's how hard I found it to tip the games. So hard.
Speaking of Golden Point, how good was the round of footy last weekend when almost all of the first 6 games had massive comebacks, all ended up being really close. One ended up going to Golden Point and still couldn't be separated, the 2 teams. It was Saturday in particular, just a special day of
Sunday
footy.
was shit.
I said that Sunday. I said Monday night. I said it on our pod. Even the 30-16 game for Cronulla, it was 14-all with 19 minutes left.
Yeah.
So all the games, there was every game except ours, the result was on the line until the last 20 minutes or so.
We've all gone.
I've gone the Knights mainly because I think the team, even if they're not playing for the coach, they want the coach gone. I think Dane Gagai playing game number 300 is as good a reason to get up as any. And while we don't like Gagai all that much because of how well he plays against us, it's a massive milestone for him, and congratulations to him on that. But I think if they can get the win this week against Para, but their season might potentially fall apart after that.
We've all gone Doggies over Chookies.
Yeah, again, that's hard because the Chooks had the bye, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes. Was it Roosters had the bye? I think the Roosters had the bye.
Yeah.
So they're going to be fresh, but how do you tip against Canterbury the way they're playing? So I don't know. I know the Roosters have got points in them. I know Tedesco is going to want to try and say I'm up for Origin, and Canterbury did get off to a slow start, but I'd just rather tip Canterbury and get it wrong if I get it wrong.
Well, 1.5 games so far have been a blip for Canterbury, and other than that, they've been pretty darn good. That game against the Broncos, I think they might have won the second half, they were way off the pace in that game. And then obviously their first half against the Raiders last week was another blip. But for the rest of the season, they've played pretty bloody well.
Prior to that Broncos game, Canterbury went 208 minutes without conceding a point.
Yeah.
So their defence has been really intense. That's why I was so shocked with Canberra's start last week. I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game.
And the Broncos game as well, where the Broncos put a decent chunk
That was the
of points
one
on
that
them.
broke it. Yeah.
I think that was maybe 16 points in the first 12 minutes or something as well.
It's like
So
32
it was a
nil at
really
half
quick
time or
start.
something. Yeah.
Rob and I have gone the Finns. As you've gone the Wires, I went. It's in.
It's at Suncorp. The
I went
Wires are very well supported up there, and the Dolphins, I don't have a lot of trust in the Dolphins at the moment. The Wires are absolutely crushing it. They're in second with a for and against of +1. That is insane. Their start, while they haven't been winning games big and they've lost a couple of games big, they are playing for their fans. They are playing for each other. They, just like 2 years ago, they're a really fun team to watch, and I'm kind of impressed that it's taken Sean Johnson retiring for them to find the form they kind of hit 2 years ago, and then they obviously had a bit of a blip last year. But yeah, I think they can get the job done against the Dolphins.
That'd be better for us.
Magic round, Wollongong, Queensland again. Too much travel for me. I'm going the Dolphins.
Cowboys. We've all gone Cowboys up there. They're playing the
Manly.
Playing the Manly. Yeah, tough one.
Very tough one.
Tough one.
Manly have been a really hard team to read this year.
Yeah.
They've had some brilliant performances, but they've also had some absolute clangers. They've just lost to the Sharks twice in the space of 4 weeks. And to me, that's sort of a barometer that they might be a little bit off the pace this year against some of the better teams, some of the top teams. I expect this one to be an absolute cracker of a game. If Sharks and Storm isn't game of the round, then this one is a very close second. So I'm going the Cowboys purely because it's at home. They had a home game last week, and yeah, while they played 90 minutes, the fact that they don't have to travel anywhere kind of works out fairly well in their favour for this one.
Yeah, this game's too hard for me. I picked the Cowboys, but it was literally toss a coin. I'm not really confident about Purdue moving from centre to 5'8", especially for my super.
That is an interesting decision,
team.
isn't it?
Oh, apparently he's a natural half, but again, Manly, if they turn it on, I mean, they've scored some great tries up there too. Everyone will remember the 110-metre try on full time a year or two ago.
Yep.
But yeah, it should be a good game to watch anyway. Cowboys are always entertaining.
Sharks v Storm at Shark Park. I tipped Sharks. I don't even remember tipping the Sharks. I don't know why I tipped the Sharks. I guess because they're at home with no comp. This is a tough one.
Yeah, I tipped the Sharks because Storm won 64-0. And that sounds really weird, but how many times you see a team pump someone and then the next week they fall flat on their face? So no other reason that Melbourne aren't normally the same team when they travel away from home. So I've gone Cronulla with zero confidence.
Yeah, I've gone the Storm purely off the back of what they did to us. I think Ryan Pappenhausen has really found his groove this year as well. He hasn't been injured at all, which has been great for him in his game. He'll be brimming with confidence at the moment, and I think the team will play off the back of him and how good he's been. So I'm going the Storm to get it done in probably a fairly close one.
We've all gone Broncos against who the Broncos got this week.
Again, that's going to be a close game too, I think. I mean, it's going to be pissing down rain up in Queensland, apparently. They've got torrential weather up there. If Saints had a couple of bigger halves, I'd probably tip St. George this week. Brisbane are hopelessly out of form. But I can't go against them.
A massive shame that Ben Hunt got injured the week before he was due to face his old team. I think this had a cracking storyline potentially about it, but yeah, unfortunately he's injured for, I think it's something like 8 weeks or so, and massive loss for the Broncos. But I mean, we get our first look at Ezra Mann for the year and see how he's shaken off his off season and how he kind of steps up in the absence of Hunt and what he brings to the team for the season. So maybe it'll be good for them, maybe it won't. I'm going the Broncos mainly because it's at home, but I think this is going to be a close game too. It's also a very rare day game for the Broncos, where they start and finish the game in the sunlight. So we'll see how they play in the sunlight, because normally they're a nighttime team.
Okay.
Raiders Titans up there, down there in Canberra. We've all gone the Raiders, but I don't know. Titans are hard to pick.
Titans can score points, but I wonder if Canberra's confidence got busted from just that capitulation in the second half against Canterbury. You'd have to still favour Canberra. They've been pretty good most of the years, but again, it wouldn't surprise me. The Titans have got enough speed and creative play in their back line to cause any trouble.
Yeah, massive win for against the Storm for the context of their season. Big loss to the Broncos after leading 20-0 and then conceding 30 unanswered. It's a bit of an interesting one there. I think Ricky will have shoved a rocket up their asses and they'll get up for this one. I am leaning towards them probably in another close one. I think most of the games this round are going to be close ones. The Titans are a little hard to get a read on. I think they're going to look a lot better for the rest of the season with Jaden Campbell back. He had a pretty good game against the Knights last week and adds a lot to their team. So with him back, they're going to be a tougher opposition, but it's hard to go against the Raiders in Canberra at the moment with how their season has predominantly gone so far.
And I've tipped the Mighty West Tigers. You cowards have tipped the South Sydney Rabbitohs. What gives?
Sunday scarred me. I need to see something from them again before I can tip them again. That hurt, and I was feeling pretty flat after the game. And like I said, I feel like our season's hanging by a thread a little bit more now. I know we're 5-5, and it's a very strange thing to say that our season is hanging by a thread, but the boys probably took a bit of a hit to their confidence, and I hope they can find something. But I think even though odds are about 50-50 in this game from a betting standpoint, I'm backing Souths. We also don't have a great record at Campbelltown, and I'd like to see us win one there. But because we're 0-2 at Campbelltown so far, I'm tipping the sort of safe bet in that regard. I'd love to be proven wrong. Please, Tigers, prove me wrong. Like, if the Tigers are the team that cost me a perfect round, I don't care. I don't fucking care at all.
Tigers win is above everything.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deeply into it other than to say that when you let's accept now that Brent Naden is a winger, not a centre. Okay, you've picked a winger at number 14. I can't get confident about that, and I hope I'm wrong. And I know I love the back line we got. I know our starting team looks pretty good, but I just think their bench is a lot better and a lot more balanced than our bench. But again, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope the boys do the complete opposite of what they did against Melbourne last Sunday.
Other grades this week, the Magpies went down 40-16, so they're not having a great season again down there in New South Wales Cup. They are playing before first grade, so there are 2 games to watch on Sunday, so you can get 3:55. The Magpies will play the Rabbitohs in second grade, so two games in one, and in Jersey Flag. I believe the whole Jersey Flag comp has a bye this week, from what I could tell on the website, and they went down 40-20 to the Panthers as well. So the depth in the club is hurting all the way at the moment. Righto, Stats Man, what do you got for us this week?
I just quickly as well, I think some of our Harold Matts players have been moved up from Harold Matts now that their season's over into Jersey Flag. So interesting to keep a bit of an eye on some of those guys and see how they go.
Yeah, for sure.
As for Statsman this week, I wanted to have a little bit of a look for some positives in after what was a really tough week. So I went to have a look at some of the stats overall across the comp to see where we're going well and where we're not going so well. Or mostly where we're going better than previous years. One of the most impressive things about where we are at the moment is we're topping the offloads count by 10, which is a pretty decent margin to be topping the offloads count. I don't know if the Raiders have had a bye, but yeah, they're 10 behind us. But I mean, we're also 5th in post-contact meters, which I think is pretty good, and that's an area where we've been a little bit down in recent seasons. So I think 5th is a pretty good place to be for that one. There was another stat as well that we
were 2nd in red zone defense, as I heard in the commentary, but I guess that would have just fallen out the window after.
Well, how many of their tries were long range is the question.
Well, let's figure out. The first one wasn't. The second one wasn't. The third one was. That was from the short dropout.
Yeah, so that's technically not red zone.
The last one before half time was long range. That was a beautiful pass from Alex Seyfarth to Nick Meaney. That went 70 metres, so that one wasn't. I think, actually, you know what? I think the first half ones weren't, but the ones close to the line, like Nelson Asafa Solomona, Cameron Munster's try was off a short ball from Hughes. There are others there, but yeah, you're right. Probably half of them, maybe six of them were at least long range. Perhaps 5 of them were inside the red zone.
So we're probably still maybe
top
not
8.
second,
probably
but
in the
probably
top 8.
still like top 6, top 8. Another one where we obviously slipped a little bit after last week. 7th overall for average points scored. Obviously, we scored 0 last week, but before. We would have been a little bit higher than that before that, but
It reminded me of Billy Birmingham. Yeah, it's got him. That stuffed his average. That zero stuffed our average.
That's fucked his average.
Yeah.
Rich.
in my defense, you have to look at
average,
averages when some teams have played 10 games and some teams have played 9.
Yeah.
Averages is the best way to look at it, because
Yeah.
if I just look at total, we're 10th. We have played an extra game, but we're 10th on total points. But averages, because some of the teams above us have played one less game, their average is a little bit skewed. So it's some stats your average is going to be higher than your overall rank, and some stats your average is going to be lower than your overall rank. It's a really weird one, but that's just usually what I tend to look at.
Right, you caught me off guard. Not an abrupt ending, but we are pretty much towards the end of the show. Patreon.com/WestsLife. If you want to support the show, we'll chat to the guys after the show. So they are doing a bonus episode after every show, and we give the guys in the Discord to jump on and have a chat with us. We talk footy, we talk all sorts of things. We answer their questions that they've left us in the Discord. Have a good time. So if you want to join in on the fun, patreon.com/WestsLife. Join our Discord from there. Support the show as well. So thank you to all our legends that do support the show. Bring them all up on screen now, and especially to our top tier legends in the top tier. Man, this is slow, the internet tonight. But yeah. Any final parting words?
No, I think we need to part really quickly, Josh, before we get ambushed.
It's the parties.
No, just look. Hope the boys get the win on Sunday night. I'm really happy with our back line. Happy with our starting team. We need this bench to really fire up this week. If they left it all for Campbelltown on Sunday night with that shitty performance against Melbourne, then I'll be happy with it. But I really feel like the bye's coming. We need the bye.
Leave the tanks completely empty after this game, go into a bye, get a chance to freshen up, and then from there just see where we are at, and for the rest, and reset for the rest of the season.
We'll see you out there. Catch us outside the Leagues Club entry /
Car park.
See us in the car park with as we'll be having the big shiny lights. If you see us, come
Put the volume on this time too, buddy.
Win or lose.
Sometimes I have the light and the camera.
You were
doing a good job.
Trying to multitask.
Yeah. That's because someone let you down and wasn't there. That's why.
Multiple times.
All right.
In the rain as well.
Oh yeah. Hopefully it doesn't rain. What's the weather? Do we know the weather for Sunday?
I haven't checked the forecast yet.
At least that'd be good. All right. As always,
go the Tigers.
Go the West Tigers.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the West Tigers Life podcast. You can join us every Wednesday night live at 8:30 p.m. from the Orange Grove Hotel. A big thank you to Orange Grove Hotel for their support, as well as iChoice Home Loans. If you want to hear more from the West Tigers Life podcast, go to westtigers.com.au. That'll be our link tree, and you'll find links to all our social media, and you can sign up at our Patreon at patreon.com/WestLife. Join us next time on West Tigers Life.